The sound was small, but it split my world in half. Re-up. I turned just in time to see Daisy's head jerk back, her teeth clenched around the pale blue slip of paper I'd been guarding like treasure. For a second, my mind refused to believe it. That thin rectangle with my name, the bank's seal, $20,000 written across it, now dangling from her mouth like a chew toy. "No," I whispered. Then louder, "No." My body moved before my brain caught up. I lunged. She flinched, startled, and the check tore down the middle with a dry, final crack. The pieces floated to the floor, weightless as ash. Daisy froze, ears flat, tail tucked between her legs, her eyes huge and terrified. But my anger was already boiling over. I saw red. I saw months of work, of sleepless nights, of barely holding it together, gone. "You stupid," I choked on the rest. My voice broke. "Do you know what you just did?" Daisy whimpered softly. My hands were shaking so bad that I dropped the torn halves, staring at them like pieces of my own heart. That check was the only thing standing between me and losing everything. I dragged her to the laundry room. The collar clinked, her nails scraping against the tile. "Stay there," I shouted. My throat hurt from it when I shut the door. Her bark came once, sharp, then silence. And that silence was worse than the sound of tearing paper. I stood there, chest heaving, every nerve on fire. I told myself she had to learn. That I was teaching her. But really, I was just taking my pain out on something that loved me. I didn't know it then, but Daisy hadn't destroyed my future. She'd just ripped apart the lie that was about to ruin it. That night, I didn't feed her. I couldn't look at her. Every time I walked past the laundry door, guilt prickled my skin, but I shoved it down. "She ruined $20,000, I repeated like a spell. "She did this." I poured myself a glass of wine instead of dinner. My hands were still trembling. The check had been meant to save my cafe dream, my one shot to finally be more than a struggling freelancer living off coffee and hope. Now, I couldn't even think about food. Her faint whimper slipped through the door, soft and rhythmic like an apology. I pressed my palms against my ears. At some point, I must have dozed off on the couch because when I woke up, it was 3:14 a.m. The house was silent except for the ticking clock and my own heartbeat. I walked to the laundry room on autopilot and gripped the handle. "Don't," I whispered to myself. "She has to learn." But when I pressed my ear to the wood, I heard her breathing, shallow, scared, waiting for me. A lump rose in my throat. I turned away. Back in the kitchen, the shredded paper still lay on the floor. I knelt, trying to fit the torn edges together like maybe, just maybe, I could undo it. But no amount of tape could put back what was gone. I felt small, stupid, and mean. Still, pride held me upright. "You broke it, Daisy," I muttered. "You broke everything." I told myself I'd deal with the bank tomorrow. I told myself I could fix it. I had no idea that the real break hadn't come from her teeth. It had started the day I met him. My name is Lauren Reed. I'm 32, from Portland, Oregon, and I've spent most of my life trying to prove I can do something meaningful on my own. I've always dreamed of opening my own cafe, a warm, quiet place where people could just breathe. I'd even found the perfect spot on Maple Street. Brick walls, sunlight through the big windows, the kind of space that felt like possibility. But dreams cost money, and I didn't have any. Not until Michael Turner walked into my life. He looked like every picture of success: pressed shirt, calm voice, steady eyes. He said he invested in young creatives with passion. He listened to my ideas for an hour before saying the words I'd been waiting to hear my whole life. "You remind me of myself when I started. Let me help you get off the ground." A week later, a delivery envelope arrived with a cashier's check for $20,000 and a handwritten note. "Consider this your first step to freedom, M." Freedom. I remember tracing the letters with my fingertip. For the first time in years, I let myself believe things were turning around. I called my mom. I told her everything was finally going to be okay. And now, sitting on the cold kitchen floor, the pieces of that check scattered around me like confetti from a celebration that never happened. All I could think was, what if Daisy hadn't just destroyed paper? What if she'd destroyed the only chance I had left? 2 weeks before the tear, I met Michael Turner at a business mixer downtown. I remember the way he leaned on the bar, relaxed, self-assured. Everything I wished I could be. His watch gleamed like a small sun when he offered his hand. "Lauren Reed," I said, shaking it. "Michael," he replied, smile practiced, eyes steady. "I've heard your name around. You're the cafe girl, right? The cafe girl." I laughed, half embarrassed, half proud. I told him about my dream: sunlight through brick windows, jazz music, the smell of cinnamon. I didn't notice how he kept nodding at perfect intervals, as if trained to match my rhythm. "You've got passion," he said. "That's rare. I invest in people like you." He slipped me his card: Turner Investments, small business funding. My chest fluttered with a dangerous kind of hope. No one had ever taken me seriously like that. Later that night, I stared at the card on my nightstand until sleep blurred it. For the first time in years, I believed my luck had changed. A week later, he showed up at my apartment with a box of pastries and a folder. Daisy barked the second he crossed the threshold, low, warning, a sound I'd never heard from her. "Easy, girl," I said, pulling her back. Michael laughed it off. "Some dogs just don't like success." He opened the folder: contracts, projections, even a draft logo for Lauren's Maple Cafe. And then the check, a crisp cashier's check for $20,000. "I believe in this," he said. "All I need is for you to handle some preliminary purchases. I'll reimburse you." My throat went dry. I could already see the cafe sign hanging above the door. "Is this real?" I asked. He smiled. "Of course. Just send half back for supply reservations. I'll take care of the rest." It felt too easy, too sudden, but dreams make liars of logic. He said all the right words. Daisy kept growling. When he left, she stayed by the door, pacing. I laughed nervously. "Relax, Daisy, he's helping us." But she wouldn't move until his car disappeared from view. The next morning, I woke to find Daisy sitting by the kitchen counter, eyes fixed on the check like she was guarding it. "Not yours," I teased, sliding it into a folder. She whined, tail flicking once. Something about her stare made me pause. For days, she followed me from room to room, refusing to let that check out of her sight. If I picked it up, she'd tilt her head and growl softly, not angry, just uneasy. I brushed it off as jealousy. The night before it happened, Michael called. "You'll wire the half tomorrow morning?" he asked. "After the deposit clears," I said. He chuckled. "Too quick, too practiced." Sure. Just don't let your excitement slow you down." When I hung up, Daisy barked again from the other room. It wasn't loud, just one bark, sharp, deliberate. Like she knew something I didn't. I sighed. "You worry too much, girl." I tucked the check under a paperweight on the counter. Tomorrow was supposed to be my big day. And Daisy, my sweet, stubborn Daisy, spent that night pacing the floor like a creature trying to warn me from the dark. That night felt different. The house was too quiet, the air too still, like the world was holding its breath. I brewed coffee even though it was almost midnight. Tomorrow I'd go to the bank, deposit the check, and finally start the cafe I'd dreamed of for years. I kept picturing the sign, Lauren's Maple Cafe, and the first cup I'd pour behind my own counter. Daisy followed me everywhere, every step I took, the soft click of her nails behind me when I placed the check on the counter. She sat in front of it, ears alert. "Guarding it again," I said with a laugh that didn't quite sound like me. "It's safe, girl." She whined, one low, worried note, and padded back to her bed. I told myself she just sensed my nerves. But even as I turned off the lights, I noticed she didn't lie down. She stayed sitting, eyes fixed on that counter, breathing slow and steady like she was waiting for something. I remember whispering, "Tomorrow everything changes." And it did, just not the way I thought. The sun was already spilling through the blinds when I walked into the kitchen. I froze. Shredded paper littered the floor, thin, blue-white strips scattered like confetti after a funeral. "Daisy," my voice cracked. She stood by the corner, tail tucked, head low. In her mouth hung the last torn edge of the check. The world went silent. I couldn't even hear my heartbeat. I picked up one half of the check and stared at the jagged line where it had been ripped. The numbers were still visible, $20,000. My chest tightened, heat climbing my neck. Why? The word came out a whisper first, then a shout that bounced off the walls. Why would you do that? She backed up a step. I saw confusion in her eyes, not guilt, just confusion. I dropped the paper, sank to the floor, and pressed both hands to my face. My dream was gone before it even started. For a long moment I just sat there, breathing in broken pieces of paper and disbelief. That's when the phone rang. Michael's name lit the screen. "Did you send the wire yet?" he asked, too casually. I swallowed hard. "Not yet. The checks, delayed." He exhaled, long and tight. "Don't wait too long, Lauren. Timing is everything." Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. By noon I was sitting across from a teller, hands clasped so tightly my knuckles ached. I slid the retaped remains of the check across the counter, pretending the damage was just cosmetic. She frowned immediately. "Where did you say you got this?" "From a private investor," I said. "Why?" She typed something, then her eyebrows pinched together. "There's a verification flag. The routing number doesn't match the issuing bank." I blinked. "I don't understand." "It could be nothing," she said gently, "but don't deposit it until we confirm." My throat dried. The room spun. Outside, I dialed Michael's number. Straight to voicemail. That was the moment the first thread of doubt tightened around my ribs. The check wasn't just ruined, it might have been fake all along. And Daisy, my sweet, nervous Daisy, had tried to warn me. The drive home felt endless. Every red light lasted forever, every car horn stabbed at my nerves. When I pulled into the driveway, Daisy was sitting by the door, waiting like she always did. But this time, I couldn't look at her. The guilt hit me harder than the anger ever had. She had torn the check, yes, but if it was fake, she had only been protecting me. I crouched down slowly. "Hey, girl," my voice trembled. Did you know something I didn't?" Her ears perked up, tail wagging softly, like she'd been waiting for forgiveness. The house felt haunted by my own regret. I replayed every detail. Her pacing, her whining, the way she'd stood guard the night before. Was that instinct? Or something deeper? I placed my hand over her head, tears stinging my eyes. "I'm sorry." That was the first time I truly understood how much trust I'd broken. And for the first time since everything started, I wasn't angry anymore. I was scared. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was a misunderstanding. I texted Michael, pretending I didn't know about the bank flag. "Hey, just confirming I'll try again today. Do you have a different routing number?" He replied in seconds. "No changes. Use the same one. Don't talk to the bank, they always slow things down."